Welcome to Business Talks with your host, Kent Adams. Join Kent now as he sits down with business and community leaders to discuss a wide range of important topics in business. Business Talks is brought to you in part by STCU. Now, here's Kent.
Well, welcome to Business Talks. I'm kind of excited today because one of the things I admire in our local community here, and I admire across the country too, but here in the Spokane area, are those entrepreneurs that begin new businesses and or take over and expand existing businesses. And the fellow I have today, Greg Green, has done that a couple of times. And so, as I told him just before we went on, I said, we're going to have coffee because I want to suck out a lot of good information, because I'm just one of those, when I've seen people that are successful, Greg, I want to know how you did it. Yeah. And part of it is we grow our station here.
Sure.
There, I know I'll pick up some things that will be helpful. So, Greg, you're the CEO?
That's correct.
Okay, of FatBeam.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, that's not like a diet reduction place or something like that.
It obviously isn't by looking at me.
Oh, let's not go there for either of us, okay? Yeah.
No, we build fiber optic networks.
Okay.
And so there's literally a beam of a laser that is sent across the fiber optic network,
That
which
just
creates what we call
absolutely
it.
fascinates
It's
me
intriguing.
that you're able to do those kinds of things. I mean, you think back to the telephone industry, and everything was wired with the 2 or 3 wires that came to your house and to your business and so forth, and everything's over the air or on fiber optics.
That's correct.
Welcome to the 21st century.
Well, thank
and
you.
a lot of us have to learn new things too, right?
Yeah.
Do you remember, you're not old enough, but back
I
in
probably am. Monopoly.
Well, yeah.
Ma Bell.
Yeah, and back in my days when they said to you, well, what do you think you're going to do, carry a calculator with you? Yes, we do, in our phone of all places.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah. And you mentioned something, and that's where I really remember seeing you and your name in the Spokane business community and so forth. Way back in the Ma Bell days, everything was so regulated, and the local phone company was part of the national phone company and all of that.
That's correct.
Things changed, didn't they?
They did,
Yeah,
they did.
and you took advantage of it.
We did. So in 96, there was the Telecom Act. And so before that Telecom Act, you had an option for maybe long-distance services or things like that. But essentially, they broke up the phone company, and then they had long-distance as sort of competitive products, competing products. And then in 96, the Telecom Act basically made it, or gave us an opportunity as entrepreneurs to deliver telephone service to businesses. So in Spokane, Washington, we were the first little company. The company was called Tel West.
Yes.
It was.
I remember.
It started out at Rock Point, where Walt Worthy owned Rock Point many years ago. He wired the building. We provided.
He had all his square feet there.
Yeah,
you remember?
Yeah. And what a great story. In fact, one time Walt and I were partners in Tel West.
Okay.
And so we wired the entire Rock Point Tower for dial tone to compete with that. And ultimately the plan was to take it downtown. So we're doing a little beta test there. Right. And then along the way, Craig McCaw came along, the cellular pioneer, who's a billionaire by his own self, and he was so intrigued by the competitive telecom industry. So when they broke up Ma Bell, essentially there was a $200 billion a year industry in the United States with long distance.
And others could take advantage of it.
And he says, let's just get 1% of that. And I thought that was a pretty good goal. So so I was the president of NextLink Washington, and that was the company that we had, and we were the third acquisition.
Wow.
And then we took it public later in 96. So we actually started to get together about 94 before the Telecom Act.
Right.
Took it public in 96, raised about $400 million, which means nothing today. Like that's $500 million. It's such time to change. Yeah. But what a fun ride, and we've had other companies along the way. But it was great to do in Spokane.
Yes.
Yeah, it's a great place to do business.
Isn't it? It's kind of fun to do things here locally that you start to see in other spots across the country too, isn't it?
It's great.
From Spokane, Washington, were. I mean, what we do, we're the only internet TV station that does all the programs we have. across the country, and the word is going to start to get out and so forth. But it's kind of fun to be on the leading edge of all that.
It is. And why can't it be here? You look at, my friend Tom Simpson and E-Tails, what he did with that company and the success they had. And you look at the Williams family and what they did with Telec, that quite frankly, not just nationally, but internationally. And, the great, Stanton family, I don't frankly know them well, but the bank, Washington Trust Bank, what they've done. I mean, there's just so many great companies that have been founded here. And I think that's the one thing that I kind of missed, that if I had to do it over again, they always say, do you have any regrets? And I always think, how can you not? But that's another conversation.
Hindsight's always 20/20, though, isn't it?
I think it's a 30-minute show, so we don't have so much time. But I wish I would have thought bigger. Like I did think big, but it's really interesting how, like, if you can just think a little bit bigger, you can be that much larger. But great companies started here, and I'm so grateful for the community.
When you talk about the Williams, it was Wayne Williams.
Wayne
that got together with me.
You shared that with me.
Yes.
Good advice he gave you, by the way.
He did. And he basically, for our viewers, he basically said, get out of AM and FM radio, Kent, because we were doing some things on AM and FM radio. It's not the 50s and 60s anymore. Yeah. I kind of knew where it was going to go, but I said, Wayne, what are you talking about? He said, well, it's podcasts, okay? And then he would come back and be on our podcast shows and so forth about every 6 months.
That's great.
And then one day he showed up and said, you've got cameras in here. I said, well, we've taken what you told me and taken it another step or two, and now everything we do is video.
Yeah.
And welcome to the 21st century.
I've
got good friends locally here in the broadcast business, and they will tell me confidentially, but very directly, Kent, you're in a growing business, we're not.
Yeah.
Okay?
That's true.
One station in town I worked for, when I'd sell you a spot in tonight's news, you'd talk to 25 to 30,000 people. Today, you're lucky to get 9,000.
That's what I understand.
I mean, look at what's going on.
Yeah.
And our numbers we were almost 750,000 views last year.
That's impressive.
And we'll be over 1 million this year. As broadcast continues
to decline,
to fight.
Yeah, traditional TV as we know it. Yeah.
Yes. And part of that, I think, is what I would call the older group, meaning the 45, 50 and over, who first question.
I don't know anybody in that group.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, first question, you're not on TV, meaning broadcast.
Yeah.
We don't get that anymore because they're watching Netflix. They're watching. They've recorded things. Yeah. 21st century. That's where we are. We're electronically.
And you're competing for those advertising dollars.
Yeah, we are.
And there's just this dichotomy or this shift that's taken place over the last decade or so of YouTube and online. So good for you.
Yeah. Well, let's get back to you because that's more exciting, really. Okay. So when did you start FatBeam?
We started FatBeam in 2010.
Okay.
And a partner and I, Sean Swanby. Sean owns a really successful company in Post Falls, Idaho that a lot of people don't know about.
I've heard of that.
It's called
Post Falls.
Yeah, Post Falls. Well, that you've heard of, right?
Yeah.
It's called Adnetics. And he did this. It's a great story. Sean had built this company called Adnetics in Post Falls, Idaho, and basically focused on the education market with switches, routers, computers, Wi-Fi. And he and I had met each other 20 years ago, and we had recently gotten back together. Well, that was in 2010. He said, Greg, I don't know what you're going to build next, but if we could build a company that could deliver fiber optic networks in what I would call tier 2 and 3 markets,
not the metropolitan areas.
Right, because I essentially have already done that. I built Spokane twice with NextLink and some other companies, and so if we could build Bend, Oregon, and Yakima, and
was one of your first questions? Is there money there? Because when you start getting out in the rural areas and so forth, you don't have the concentration of number of clients and customers and so forth.
That's a really good point, because when you're building fiber and it's $100,000 a mile for underground, you need to have some revenue to back that up and support it. Or you won't be doing it very long. The beauty
is that the direction most people want it underground now?
It's preferred. I mean, like, for you and I living in a neighborhood, we would like it underground rather than to see those ugly poles. But to give you a difference of dollar in the dollars, it's $50,000 to build fiber optics on a pole, aerial,
and twice that
underground. So that's many of the reasons why it's not done. And there is some value in building underground, obviously, to data centers. But the first thing we do, so we're in 40 markets west of Denver. That's our goal, and we're in 7 states today. Washington, Idaho, Montana, Wyoming, Oregon, Arizona, and New Mexico.
Okay, let me guess that you go to Arizona during this time of year to visit.
Yeah, I just got back. Yeah, actually, I just got back. It's kind of convenient. Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah. So, which is good because up here, it can be difficult to build in some of the
Yes.
Northwest markets, especially when you're building underground or aerial.
Yes.
But we're in 40 markets, and they're all under about 150,000 in population.
Okay.
Our revenues today are right around 800,000 in monthly recurring.
Okay.
And we'll be announcing next week. I'll get a little more details, but the good part is I get to announce this for you. We'll be announcing a $36 million equity round that we just raised.
Nice.
So Sean and I were able to find some great partners.
Yes.
And the first thing we do is we go and build fiber for the school district.
Okay.
Say in a Yakima or a Bend, Oregon.
Okay.
And so when we build the fiber network, let's say Bend, Oregon, they had about 25 schools. We never build it as the crow flies. We'll build it right through downtown. We'll build it for the hospital district.
I was going to say, I was going to guess the hospital next.
Yeah. So as soon as we're done delivering that to the school and we get them turned up, and that essentially funds a very large chunk, if not all, of our fiber network.
Then you can go out to homes and go out to small businesses and so forth.
So
Because
we've been very
the
successful.
basics are there.
That's exactly right.
It's
The
really
core
the
foundation.
little
You got it.
feeder ones out
That
to
is
the
exactly
neighborhoods.
right. Yeah. Very, very correct.
Wow.
Yeah.
Right.
And then we try to do this. We try to make sure that those markets, Butte, Montana, which we're in, Little Anaconda, Coeur d'Alene, Sandpoint, Bonners Ferry, I've mentioned a few others, that they're not just islands, but when we build a fiber network for Sandpoint, we have diverse fiber in and out of the market that we lease from partners so that there's diverse internet capacity.
Okay.
So that whole network isn't just talking to one another, but it's talking to the world.
Okay, yeah.
So it's
because
a
welcome
pretty
to
good
what
model.
happens today.
Oh,
you
it's
pick up
crazy.
your phone and talk to someone in Paris like they're just across the street today.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's amazing.
It really is.
Really is
It
an
really
amazing
is.
world we're in.
I remember back in high school hearing from the local, I want to say AT&T guy or something. He came to speak at an event I was at, and of course back then, which would have been about 1965, 66, he was talking about in the future you'll be able to have a phone with you and those kinds of things. And never really thought in my lifetime, they would say in the next 20 or 30 or 40 years, but never really thought we'd have what we have today, which we can essentially sit almost anywhere and connect by Wi-Fi or
or the watch phone like on Star Trek or something like that'll never happen. That's futuristic. Yeah.
No kidding. It's just absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
And I keep wondering, how do we top that? But we keep doing that.
We do, yeah.
We really do.
Yeah.
Here's what I want to do. I want to take a break, and when we come back,
Wonderful.
kind of talk about what's coming next and so forth. Because
that sounds great.
Really interesting. All right, we're going to take a quick break. We'll be back right after this.
I'm Nikki Butler, and I'm a regional manager for STCU. My lunch buddy is Nicole.
I'm Brandy Schloss. I'm a regional manager at STCU. My lunch buddy is Angelina. She's grown up with me. I've grown up with her. To see her graduate will be a lot of fun.
Brandy and I have been lunch buddies since the girls were in second grade. It's great that STCU provides me with the opportunity to be part of Reach for the Future. We are committed to the children. We're committed to our community. I'm Nikki.
I'm Brandy.
And STCU is here for good.
FatBeam, have you ever heard of them? Well, we've got the CEO here, Greg Green, and how did you come up with FatBeam? Was that an initial thing or day 2 or 3?
It was day 2 or 3, and it was actually my partner Sean and his marketing group came up with it, and we're trying to figure out. And it's so strange now when you actually think of a company name, you literally go to the internet to see if it exists.
Yes.
And you take parts of names and create funky names, and so
and no one had it.
And no one had it, and we're like, hey, we better hang it. So I think we actually sort of locked that in pretty quickly. And
you bought the URL right away too, didn't you?
We did exactly. Yeah. And so we locked those in. But that's fun. Those are great days to remember.
And why FatBeam? Because you're talking about a beam of light.
That's great. A beam of light, like a laser that shoots through the fiber optic glass itself. Yeah.
And I've got to ask this because no one has ever told me. Okay, you're sending this beam of light literally through your cables. Okay. Is it one stream of light and everything is on there, or is it more than one stream?
That's just a great question. Nobody's ever asked me that. That's fantastic.
I don't know how it works.
Sure.
Okay.
Sure. So in one of our markets, we'll take let's take Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, since it's very close to our community. So we have built 144 strand network. So what that means is that the fiber optics is just a little larger than the STCU pin here.
Right.
And in that strand is 144 fibers. And they're like the size of our hair.
Yeah.
So we'll take
But on each of those.
Yeah, we'll take a pair of those. And it's interesting, even using each of those, there can be multicolor lights. in those. So it doesn't have to be one fiber, one dedicated fiber. You can have multicolor lights, which is, another acronym, DWDM, that we could get into, and that's about as far as I know about it anyway. Our engineers do. But
and you're way beyond me already. Okay,
it's an acronym I like to throw. It makes you feel
so. Are you limited?
Well, it's interesting. There are companies that really only run a community with 4 fibers because they can multiply so many times that spectrum of light. In our case, we have a tremendous amount of fiber capacity. So we'll dedicate fiber. So when we build a fiber network to a school district, we physically allow them to use their own fibers, and we don't allow the public to that.
So it's really secure too. That way.
That is important, and we kind of, it's not as if the schools ask us that or the FCC or anyone's asked us that. We do that as what I would call culture and morality to say, listen, we like to do everything we can to protect our children.
We're going to start right
So we're going
out.
to start right out by those fibers are dedicated to that education, that school district right away.
But you still got enough.
There's plenty of excess capacity.
Wow.
Yeah. I don't think we're probably I think we probably maybe 10-15% of our total capacity is used today.
So when you lay the fiber, or you hang it from pole to pole, are you always putting in the full fiber options, or sometimes you know what the community is going to never need that much?
Sure.
Do you just put a few?
Yeah, we have. That's a really good question. We have in I want to say it's rural Montana. We have Anaconda outside of Butte, and we end up with the school district contract there. And I believe we put maybe 48 or 72 count fiber in. Because, you know you're not going to need as much. Interestingly enough, it really doesn't move the needle between 48 fibers on a strand or on the, or whether it's 144. And in some cities like Yakima, which we see some growth outside of Seattle, we've put 288 fibers.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So
you're preparing for the future. Because the last thing you want to do is go dig up ground or
at $100,000 a mile.
Exactly.
Yeah. So it's just an interesting business. We're having a good time.
I'm just curious enough for all of this. It's just it's fascinating, and I think our viewers will find that too. What's up next for you guys?
Well, we're obviously very busy with the 40 markets that we operate today. We're continuing to go into new schools throughout the region. Arizona is a very large hotbed for us around Phoenix. Amazing growth down there. Southern Idaho is another high capacity, high densely populated market that we're after. And I think the other thing you're reading a lot of buzz on, and really there's just a lot of buzz on it now, is the 5G. So you see the cell companies talking about 5G. Well, really there isn't any 5G out there today. They're testing some things. But 5G requires a tremendous amount of fiber to be able to deliver this wireless product. And so for us, it's not just the business and enterprise, but it's also the carriers, the big boys like AT&T and Verizon. And while I can't mention specific names and locations, we do have contracts with these carriers, and we are delivering fibers to their tower or other things. So, but they're delivering some things that you'll have like a little hotspot in downtown. They're trying to aggregate all the traffic using a pair of fibers, and not like a small tower, like a small. It's called small cell essentially. So 5G is a very interesting technology that's starting to pop up.
Are you having fun?
I'm having a blast. I feel like I could do it in my sleep, but I'm having a great time. I'm in a good place. I feel pretty good.
So you don't do in Spokane directly, or some of the big cities, because they're already pretty well covered, right?
Yeah, that's correct. So having built Nextlink or XO Communications and other companies, I was the CEO at Vistacom years ago. I built out this market. Now, having said that, we actually do own fiber in this community. We've swapped fiber with carriers that I had worked with in the past. So we maybe gave them access to a Coeur d'Alene market, and we got some access to. So we're not as dense in fiber because there's a fair amount of competition here. But we do need to get to the U.S. Bank building, which is sort of known as the Carrier Hotel. That's where all the telecom companies
that's what I've heard.
Seattle has the Westin, and Portland has the Piddick, and so every city has this main building where all the fiber networks come together and they talk to each other. So it's big. It's an interesting business.
It is.
I was able to learn.
So another company in the works at all?
I'm so busy with this one. I am so busy with this one. I don't have time. I like to think this is my last one.
I don't see you slowing down.
I don't know.
Are you going to be like me when you turn 73 and still working because you love it?
Depends on who you talk to, but
okay.
I'd like to be. I love it. You know, it's when you get up and you do what you love,
Yes.
it's not a job.
No, it isn't. It really
You know,
isn't.
and I think that's something that young kids can learn. Like, find something that you like to do, that you have a passion for. Because if you have a passion for something, whether it's sales or accounting, finance, anything,
It's not work.
It's not work.
No. I have a
it's a great
friend,
thing.
Tom, I won't mention his last name, who has had a friend who was getting close to retirement, and he had taken over his dad's CPA firm. So he's making good money, right? And he admitted to my friend Tom, before he retired, you know, I've never really enjoyed it. I've enjoyed the dollars that came with it.
Interesting.
How sad
All the
to go
years.
through life and spend 40 years or whatever and not really enjoying it. Yes, they could have nice vacations
Sure.
and everything else, but it's more than a 2-week vacation.
It is,
You
yeah.
know, because you still have 50 weeks during the rest of the
Yeah.
year that you're working. And I go, my gosh, I don't want to end my life
Yeah.
whenever that might be going.
Yeah.
And my wife, when I did retire formally,
Yeah.
she said, you know, have you enjoyed what you've done? And I was able to say, absolutely. Okay,
that's
had
great.
not only different jobs but different careers and so forth. This is a whole different career.
Well, your passion comes out in the product. I mean, look at the product that,
Yeah.
that you and the team have created.
And
it's
that's
fantastic.
it. I have assembled a really good team that
Yeah.
cares.
I mean, I understand you're the good looks and everything.
You're
here,
right,
but
right.
You've got a
Okay,
great
now
team.
you're lying.
Now
you're lying on my
But you got great people.
Yeah,
You've got
no, that is
fantastic
true.
people.
Greg, thank you very much.
It's a pleasure.
Continued good luck.
Pleasure.
Okay, I
Pleasure.
think this is we're going to have you back as you continue
to come
to
back.
grow things.
Love
Okay.
to come back.
Hey, thanks for watching Business Talks. Have a great week, everybody.
Thanks for watching. Business Talks is produced in Spokane, Washington by SpokaneTalksMedia.com, which is solely responsible for its content. Business Talks is brought to you in part by STCU. Hear this program again on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or SpokaneTalksMedia.com.